This video is brought to you by the Artisan Classic Slim, the handmade yet affordable fountain pen. Click the link in the description to get 10% off your order.
Okay, wow, just cleans up the nib.
Okay, wow indeed. You know, let me just adjust the ISO there. You know, I can't believe sometimes that video taken there was pretty much, plus or minus a few days, 3 years ago. For anyone who hasn't watched that video, that was my feeble attempt to try and get more flex out of a fountain pen nib, because I think a common request from a lot of people is they want more flex in their fountain pen nibs, and for some people who don't know, fountain pen nibs aren't as flexible as a lot of people might have you think. They're not dip pens and you're going to get this uber flex. Yes, if you put down, you're going to get some line variation, but for the most part, you're not going to get this big contrast. And what I tried to do in that video was try to modify a more mainstream nib into something that would give more flex. And back then, I was pretty happy with that video. Yeah, it was a little bit, I'm not going to say clickbaity, but I could have done it a little bit better. The Dremel tool I was using, it's not even a Dremel, but the Dremel tool I was using was way too thick. So now, 3 years later, when I have a little bit of a better setup, I want to try and see if I can maybe try it again and actually get a functional nib. Because that nib that I make was hacked and there was no way that it was usable. So what my plan is to go ahead and modify one of these nibs. This is a Taiwanese made number 6 size nibs that I put on all of my fountain pens that I make. And these nibs are pretty good. They're made from stainless steel. You know, the quality control is pretty good. They write nicely and they give a little bit of flex. But the thing is, they are obviously not a flex nib. They handle pretty well, but if you push down, yeah, you're going to get some contrast, but it's nothing out of this world like a Noodler's Ahab. So my plan is to go ahead and modify these nibs because I have a few extras kicking around. Now, in terms of flex in general, and this is a pretty brief overview, to get flex, there are several ways of doing it. First of all, there's the type of stainless steel compound that you use, because there are a lot of different types of stainless steel. Now, it's pretty obvious that companies such as Bock, Jowo, Schmidt, they obviously use different types of stainless steel alloys to make their nibs. None of them are quite the same, and you can certainly feel it in the way their nibs react. Some of them are more springy than others, some of them give more flex than others. And obviously there's no way that I'll be able to change the type of steel used in the nib. So how can I modify this nib? Now, one way that I could get more flex from this nib is to increase the length of the tine. And that's what they do on the Noodler's Ahab. If you look at those nibs, the slit is like halfway down the nib. It's crazy. The issue with that, though, is the cutting wheels that they use to make the slit. They are crazy thin. There's a documentary on how nibs are made, and it does tell you how wide the cutting wheels are, and it's like the thickness of a human hair. So there's no way that I want to modify it like that. What I am going to do is try and copy some other nibs, because if you look at pictures of flex nibs on the internet, there are two ways which they generally achieve making their nibs flex. Or at least you can see it in the design of the nib. The first design is they have really, really thin shoulders of the nib. And if you look at nibs such as the Namiki Falcon, you can see it. The shoulders right here, right before the tip, they are very thin. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and grind away the material near the shoulders. And what I'm also going to do is I'm also going to grind away some of the material on a different nib. Grind away some of the material right here where the shoulders end, because you can see that on other fountain pens. Sometimes the material has been ground away, sometimes there is a cut, and I guess I'll see how it compares, if it makes any difference or not. My guess is yes, it's going to make a difference. So let's jump onto the lathe to try and grind this. Okay everyone, you join me at the lathe with the nib. What I've done is I've put in a fine cut grinding wheel, and I can get away with using a fine because there's really not that much material on a nib. Last time I checked, I think it was 0.4 of a millimeter, how thick the nib material is, so this stuff is going to come away pretty easily. If I'm honest, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try and eyeball it. I'm going to try my best to get in behind the tipping without touching the tipping on the grinding wheel. Hopefully just get away under here and remove material. And I'm just going to eyeball it, and I'll decide when I'm done, and then I'll just try and replicate it on the other side. Nothing scientific here, no huge amounts of precision, unless you count my handiwork as precision. So, oops, sorry about that. So let's see what I can do. Okay, that looks pretty decent. Looks like I've taken away a little bit of material, so let's get on to the second nib. Okay everyone, you now join me for the modification of the second nib. What we have here is what I'm told is my great-great-grandfather's little jeweler's vise, and in it I have put a dummy pen as well as the nib and feed. And what I'm going to try and do is try and make a little notch in here, right where the shoulders end, and then I'm going to try and make a cut with the thinnest file or blade that I can find. Okay, and now that I've done that, what I've decided to do is just get in there with a different cut file and just make this notch just that little bit bigger. Alright, that nib needed a little bit of cleanup, but after a while it looks like I have done a job that I am moderately satisfied with. It looks sort of symmetrical, so enough talking, let's see if it's made any difference. Hey guys, welcome to the writing sample, and if I'm honest, I am genuinely excited because I haven't tested these nibs. Honestly, I've literally come in from the workshop and I am ready to test these nibs for the first time. What I have here is a brand new unused nib that I haven't modified in its packaging. This nib here has had material taken away from the shoulders of the tine of the nib, and this one here has had material taken away from the bottom back where the shoulders are. So hopefully we get some results. So first of all, quick writing sample of the nib that hasn't been modified. The ink that I'm just going to use here is nothing special. I'm just going to use Noodler's Black because Noodler's Black seems to be one of the best inks that I have ever used. You know, it just doesn't not work. So I'm just going to dip the pen. So yeah, Noodler's Black. And the pen that I'm using is just a fountain pen that I made this afternoon, actually. It's a Artisan Fountain Pens, what is it? This is a classic slim. Pretty much made it 10 minutes before I started filming. So here is a stock nib. And as I said, you can certainly get some flex out of these nibs. Certainly is possible. You do have to push down a little bit, but flex is absolutely possible. This one here is a medium nib, and not bad nib at all. So I'll just so this is stock. I'm probably going to need some more space after this, but we'll wait and see. I'll just pop this to the side. Next, let's go with the nib where I took material off the side. And once again, exactly the same. I will dip it with Noodler's ink. Fingers crossed. Okay. And this will be nib 1. And you know what? Medium. I actually think there is a bit of a difference. Yeah, there's a difference in there. So that's with pressure. Yeah, wow, actually, look at that. And it's still totally usable. That's not half bad. Well, good thing is it looks like I haven't damaged the tip while grinding, which is really good. Also, don't take that quote out of context, but wow. It looks like the writing is a little bit thicker than it was. Let me just press down, just in case. You know, I am surprised. We are getting flex, and it's not taking as much pressure as the other nib, so looks like we're getting some results. Alright, let's try the third test. Lucky last. And I'll ink that up as well. And nib 3. And medium. And ooh, this is probably the best so far. Wow. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, I am so glad I did a face cam for this because, wow, I'm not exaggerating. That is, let me just tear that off. That is a nib. I am smiling so much. The good thing is, so let me re-dip it. Looks like this ink is going to get used up pretty quickly due to how much I'm flexing it. Oh man. You know, it feels very similar to the Noodler's Ahab. I gotta say, it does feel very similar. I'm not sure if the ink flow needs to be addressed, but so far, I think I am pretty happy with the results. I will say, out of the gate, it looks like the line width with no pressure. It looks like it is a little bit wider than, say, the stock nib. This is the stock nib. Yeah, it absolutely is wider. Maybe if there was damage to it during, you know, taking the material away or something, or it's just so much easier to flex that little bit in the beginning. There absolutely is a difference, but honestly, I don't mind. It's more like a broad now, if I'm honest, but I think I'm pretty happy with those results. Can you increase the flex of a fountain pen without buying a flex nib and just hacking at it with a file? The answer is heck yeah, man. You know, one thing I will do, now that I think of it, I'm going to go add a converter to this pen, fill it up, I'll do some writing, and I'll see what the writing is like. I'll see if the ink flow needs to be addressed, and look at that. I've just done 2 pages of writing now with this nib in the pen, and what can I say? It's really nice to work with a nib that is now as soft as this. It's just very nice to write with. Forgive me if this is not the cleanest writing sample, but as you can see, there is clearly a more distinct writing style that this nib now offers, because normally when you write, you don't normally get line variation and contrast, but here you can certainly tell that this is written by a pen that is clearly not a ballpoint, clearly not a rollerball. There is some nice line variation that you can get out of this, and that's just something that I like with pens that offer a little bit of contrast. That's all what I'm going for. So the feed kept up nicely. In fact, the feed was a little bit nicer now that I went from just dipping the pen in ink to actually relying on the feed to actually feed the pen ink. No issues with dripping or anything. It looks like I saved the nib from any catastrophic damage when I was grinding it. So, wow, this is pretty good. I definitely like to experiment more with how I could modify the profile of the nib. Maybe there's an advantage to having a small slit instead of just filing out the nib. I'm not sure. This is certainly something that I would love to do a follow-up video on, because this changes a lot of things in terms of other nibs that I'd love to grind out, because, as I said in the past, hard as nails. Parker Jotter, I'm coming for you, maybe. And with that, thanks for watching. It's been great.